Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for coming to Cluster API, our weekly office hours meeting. It's Wednesday, the 9th of July. Um, as I'm sure you're aware, we are a sub-project of SIG Cluster Lifecycle, and therefore we try to abide by the general Kubernetes community rules of conduct, which we can summarize as let's make this a welcoming place for everyone. Try to use the raise hand feature so we don't talk over each other. I will try to recognize you, kind of nearsighted, so if I don't see your hand, then just yell at me. Um, if you want to add your name to the attendee list, please do so, so we can have a record of who was here and people can help recognize each other. Um, yeah, and at the beginning, if this is the first time you've come to this meeting, or if you haven't been here in a while, or you just want to say something, we welcome anybody who's new, and I'll be quiet for a minute and just please unmute and say hello.
Um, if I could say something, yeah, I am Peter Ochodo. I am a colleague of Stefan, VMware by Broadcom, working on the vSphere Kubernetes service. And yeah, it's my first time attending this meeting, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for coming, Peter. Welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone
Hey,
else? Yep.
yes. Hey, how's it going? My name's Randy Simpson. I am also a colleague of Stefan and Peter. This is my first time on this meeting as well, so I'm excited.
Cool. Welcome, Randy.
Thanks.
All right. If that's everyone, then let's move on to next. We have open proposal readouts. So scroll back up here. And if do we have anybody who wants to give us an update on auto scaling from zero? I'm going to take that as a no. Yeah, Stefan.
I can give like a very short update. I think we're very close to merge. So I had like, I think Fabrizio already had HTM basically have three very small findings. I think if those are getting addressed, we should be able to merge this soon.
Great. So it's very close. If there's nothing else about auto scaling from zero, then the propagate taints from templates to nodes proposal. Any updates?
I spoke briefly with Fabrizio on this last week to go over some thoughts he had. I need to update this proposal to reflect some misunderstandings I had with how cluster classes define the sets of machines that live inside of them, which could be machine sets, machine deployments, machine pools, control plane versus workers. So I owe a revision on this, and Joel also left some comments, and Stefan gave some feedback about the possibility that we use taints for different things and thus may need to have different fields for them. So I'm going to try to incorporate that feedback as well.
Cool. Sounds like it's moving forward. Thanks, Nolan. And the last open proposal is chain inefficient upgrades. Anybody want to weigh in on that? I know Fabrizio mentioned something last week.
I think no updates. Fabrizio's on PTO this week.
Okay.
In general, I think we would like to get this merged soon. I think we had this open for a very long time, but we did not get like, I don't know. I think I reviewed it, Christian reviewed it. I don't know if anyone else. But yeah, we're getting to the point where you want to merge it. So if you care about it, take a look. Otherwise, That's also fine.
Otherwise, it's going to merge without you looking
Yeah,
at
I
it.
mean, that's what it comes down to, right? We're not going to wait open-ended for someone else to show up.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. I think that's it for open proposals. Can move on to discussion topics. We only have one on the board right now, but go ahead and type something in if you think of it. Igor and Joe, do you want to talk about this issue?
Yeah. So, yeah, we're using cluster class and it's great and it helps us a lot with like maintaining the configurations for our clusters. But we have a use case. We do AI infra. We provide AI infra. So worker upgrades are more disruptive. So we have a different system for managing control plane upgrades, which is kind of like transparent to the customer. It doesn't really impact them. And worker upgrades where they provide inputs on the worker upgrades, like when we can do it and that kind of stuff. So we need to be able to upgrade our workers, specifically patch versions, independently of the control plane. So we can work around that right now by because it's just baking in a different version of kubelet and then just letting the version be wrong. And we know that, like the kubelet APIs will be stable within the patch version, but it'd be nice if the like CAPI version reflected what version we're actually deploying there. So I was digging through the code and it seems like it wouldn't be too bad to like add a field to like worker topologies where we can put in a version override there to support that kind of skew. Um, but yeah, what are thoughts there?
Does anybody have any opinions about splitting the version? Stefan?
I'm probably the only one around who's familiar with the implementation, or at least with like all the details of the implementation. So it would definitely break a ton of assumptions at the moment. I would not say it's impossible, but it's definitely pretty complicated. And we would have to figure. Sorry, I'm not saying no, but I'm just thinking about it. So basically, what we have is, for example, we have assumptions that you can only increase class aspect topology version again if the entire cluster is on the same version, right? I don't know if that would be still the case if you want to have a different patch version for machine deployments than for the control plane, because then would not be sync. Then we have things like that as soon as you want to roll out a Kubernetes version across the cluster, you're basically holding back other changes, right? So basically, if you change the cluster class, if you change your version on class aspect topology version, and that leads to changes as well of the Kubernetes version, but as well as like other stuff, like, I don't know, your infra machine template or something, then we basically make sure that all of that gets rolled out together first for the control plane, then for one machine deployment after another. That means basically as soon as a Kubernetes version rollout is pending, we also hold back all other changes to a machine deployment to control plane, etc. We have to figure out how that would work together, right? If that version is basically not, so usually you only have one version that will like basically pending to roll out, which is class aspect topology version. But if every single machine deployment machine pool could have a different version, then we also just have to figure out how this would work. Maybe that's even straightforward. And then on top of that, we also have the current chained upgrade proposal, which basically proposes to allow people to upgrade not just by one version, but multiple versions. And then we have basically a logic in there where we are potentially skipping worker upgrades because we only have to upgrade them like every 3 Kubernetes versions. So I think my TLDR is we have to figure out how all of this can work together.
Yeah.
Or mutually exclusive to each other, right? Because basically you're pinning the version while the current logic is computing the version, so that everything still works. I think that's a challenge here.
Yeah, what I would propose is I was digging around the code a bit, is that if that version is set on the machine like worker, like updating cluster spec topology version means you're opting into like the managed cluster class upgrades for everything, right? And then if you set the version in that worker group, you're basically opting out that worker group from being managed. So then in all the checks and upgrade flows, it would just bypass that one. It's basically the user saying, hey, I want to manage the upgrade of this thing on its own. Um,
Yep, I would say on a high level, it should work. It's more like the implementation details that are potentially a bit complicated to figure out.
Yeah, we'd still want to add some checks to make sure that we can't, that you can't do skipped version too far on the control plan, on the base class if the worker is pinned to a version that's too old. So yeah, there's some details like that we have to look at.
Yeah, so I can if that sounds okay, I can start with POC and get like a draft MR up to kind of help drive discussion.
I mean, in general, feel free. What I would definitely like to hear is like Fabrizio's opinion, but he's not here this week. So, but I mean, sure, play around. Why not, right?
Sure. Do you recommend Joe, don't you know him? Do you recommend we like come back to the next meeting and see if he's here or try to get a hold of him on Slack?
So Fabrizio is usually always here. It's just that this week he's on PTO.
Okay. Okay, so
So yes, he very likely he'll be here like next week and the week after, etc.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll come back next week. I have some PTO, but I'll see if I can get a draft up of what it might look like and help drive the discussion a bit.
And yeah, we can always hit him up on Slack too.
Next week.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions about separating the versions, supporting this different version? Seems like no. Do we have any other general discussion topics? Nothing on the board, but otherwise we'll move on to provider updates, which right now is just me, and I didn't actually do this, so I'm not trying to take credit for it, but Jonathan Tong released just a patch update to CapH, the Helm provider, with several bug fixes and a bunch of other updates. So if you are using CapH, please try to use the latest version. Let us know if you have any problems. And don't see any feature group updates. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up before we call it good for today? Sounds like no, so we'll keep it short. Hopefully we'll see everybody here next week. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.